My name is, what the hell is, Carl Reiner. Oh, jeez, I keep forgetting who I am. I was born in
Hollywood, late 1989. The room is loud with laughter, the kind that follows box office numbers, not jokes. On the wall hangs a poster for When Harry Met Sally, a film that will earn over $92 million worldwide and redefine romantic comedy. In the center of the celebration stands Rob Reiner, calm, smiling, applauded as the safest bet in American cinema. But listen closely. Behind the laughter, there is silence. Reiner has just completed an unprecedented run. This is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally. Different genres. Same result, critical acclaim, commercial success. By 1990, he will direct Misery, earning Kathy Bates an Academy Award, then A Few Good Men, a courtroom drama that will cross $240 million globally. Yet at the exact moment Hollywood crowns him untouchable, something essential begins to disappear. The laughter no longer reassures him, it pressures him. Because for Rob Reiner, success was never the goal, it was proof. And proof, once demanded, is never enough. Rob Reiner was born on the 6th of March, 1947, into a household where comedy was not entertainment, it was oxygen. His father, Carl Reiner, was already a towering figure in American television, a key architect of Your Show of Shows, and later the creator of The Dick Van Dyke Show. In that home, timing mattered, precision mattered. Failure was quietly unacceptable. From the outside, it looked like privilege. From the inside, it felt like permanent audition. Rob grew up watching his father shape culture with ease, writing, directing, acting, mentoring legends like Mel Brooks. The lesson was unspoken but clear. Talent was assumed, excellence was mandatory. There was no space for obscurity, no permission to drift. Even when Rob found early fame as Meathead on All in the Family, a show that topped US ratings for 5 consecutive seasons, 1,971, 1,976, the success carried a hidden weight. Millions recognized his face, but the industry still whispered the same question. Is he great, or just Carl Reiner's son? At home, Rob was a devoted family man, married, a father, publicly stable. Yet the private pressure never lifted. He wasn't chasing applause, he was outrunning comparison. Every project had to justify his place. Every win had to silence doubt. This is the first pain of the inverted pyramid. Not abandonment, not abuse, but the quiet terror of never being allowed to be average. And that fear would follow him into every triumph that came next. The cruelest loss in Rob Reiner's life did not arrive as a single blow. It came slowly, stretched across decades, disguised as time. For most of his career, Rob worked with an unspoken deadline ticking in the background. His father was aging. The man whose approval he never openly sought but always needed was still alive, still watching, still measuring. Every new film felt like another chance to say, I did this on my own. And for a while, the results were undeniable. Between 1984 and 1992, Reiner directed 6 films in 8 years that are now considered modern American classics. Collectively, they earned hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, multiple Academy Award nominations, and permanent placement in film history. Misery, 1990 alone, grossed over $61 million on a modest budget and won an Oscar. A Few Good Men, 1992, became one of the highest-grossing courtroom dramas ever made. But time does not negotiate. As the 2000s arrived, the pace slowed. Projects grew less urgent. The industry shifted. And then, in 2020, the inevitable happened. Carl Reiner died at the age of 98. For the public, it was a celebration of a full life. For Rob, it was something colder. Because death did not bring closure. It brought a realization that could not be undone. Every film he made afterward would now exist without the possibility of being seen by the one person who mattered most. There would be no final screening, no quiet nod, no chance to hear, you did good. This is the second layer of pain in the inverted pyramid, loss that arrives too late to be repaired. Not tragedy in the cinematic sense, but permanence. The door closes, and no amount of success can reopen it. Reiner had spent decades proving he belonged. Now, the audience he had been performing for his entire life was gone. And for the first time, the question changed from, am I good enough, to something far more frightening. Who am I making films for now? Fame did not abandon Rob Reiner. It changed temperature. In the 1,990 seconds, his name alone could greenlight a studio film. By the 2000s, Hollywood had begun to treat him differently, not with hostility, but with distance. The industry moved toward franchises, visual spectacle, and global IP. Reiner's strength, dialogue, intimacy, moral tension felt suddenly old-fashioned. At the same time, his public voice grew sharper. Reiner became increasingly outspoken in political and cultural debates. He did not whisper opinions at private dinners. He broadcast them. For some, this was courage. For studios, it was risk. Hollywood has always preferred its legends agreeable, symbolic, quiet. The result was not exile, but isolation. Budgets shrank, distribution narrowed. Projects arrived with conditions instead of trust. His later films struggled critically and commercially, and the contrast was brutal. This was the same man who once delivered hit after hit across genres, now fighting for relevance in a system he helped define. This is the third pain of the inverted pyramid, being present, but no longer central. Reiner was still invited to panels, retrospectives, anniversaries. His old films were celebrated endlessly. Stand By Me, inducted into the National Film Registry, The Princess Bride, quoted by generations, When Harry Met Sally, still listed among the greatest romantic comedies ever made. But notice the irony. Hollywood praised his past more loudly than it supported his present. And fame, when it stops evolving with you, becomes a mirror that only shows who you used to be. For Reiner, this was not professional failure in the usual sense. It was something quieter and more corrosive. The realization that legacy can turn into a cage. The industry no longer asked, "What are you making next?" It asked, "Do you remember when?" Applause remained, but it came from behind glass. In this stage of life, Reiner was not fighting critics or box office numbers. He was confronting a deeper loneliness, being remembered more than being needed. A creator surrounded by praise, yet creatively alone. And that loneliness would follow him into the final reckoning, where success, influence, and memory collapse into a single, unavoidable question. At a certain point, achievement stops feeling additive. It becomes final. Rob Reiner's films no longer needed defending. They were canon. Stand By Me had entered the National Film Registry for its cultural significance. The Princess Bride lived on as a generational ritual. When Harry Met Sally still appeared on lists of the greatest screenplays ever written, the numbers were settled. The influence was unquestioned. And yet, the deeper pain emerged only after everything was secured. Because legacy, once locked in place, removes the possibility of becoming someone else. Reiner was no longer measured against peers. He was measured against himself at his peak, a comparison no living artist can win. Every new idea carried the shadow of a past that critics adored more than the present they were being asked to engage with. This is the fourth layer of the inverted pyramid. Abstract loneliness. Not the loneliness of being ignored. The loneliness of being fully understood and then frozen. People didn't ask Rob what he believed anymore. They quoted him. They didn't challenge him creatively. They honored him historically. Invitations came not for collaboration, but for remembrance. Applause arrived early, before the work could even speak. And beneath all of it sat a question he could never publicly ask. If my greatest contribution is already behind me, then what is the purpose of continuing? This is not despair. It is something colder. It is the emotional aftermath of success without escape routes, where identity collapses into a highlight reel, and the future feels like repetition rather than discovery. For a man who spent his life proving he belonged, the final paradox was cruelly precise. He belonged everywhere except in the present tense. In the end, Rob Reiner's story does not resolve with triumph or collapse. It resolves with quiet. There is no final comeback film to reframe his legacy, no dramatic fall to recontextualize his achievements. What remains is something rarer in Hollywood, a complete life, left undisturbed. Reiner never needed redemption. His work already spoke across genres, generations, and decades. Few filmmakers in American history directed such a diverse run of enduring films in such a short span of time. Fewer still did so while carrying the invisible weight of inheritance, expectation, and comparison. His greatest act was not surpassing his father, nor escaping his shadow. It was refusing to destroy himself trying. Rob Reiner lived long enough to see his films outgrow him, quoted by children who didn't know his name, cherished by audiences who never asked who his father was. That, perhaps, is the quiet justice of time. The inverted pyramid ends here, not in despair, but in acceptance. A man shaped by legacy, a career defined by range, a life that learned slowly that worth does not increase with volume. And in the silence after the applause fades, what remains is not absence, but respect.